There's a new PC VR headset coming out from an unlikely source, and it could be a game changer for social VR. Let me explain. PSVR2 has been out for a while now, and it's at the very least the most modern attempt at making a proper VR experience on a console. With that being said, my interest in VR comes from a place of self-expression in a virtual environment. So while Sony's AAA VR titles do look visually impressive, the PSVR2 kind of dropped off my radar for a bit. That is until very recently, when Sony announced they'll be releasing a new adapter to make the headset work with PC VR, specifically Steam VR. The cost of the headset is around $550, plus a $60 adapter, but sometimes it goes on sale for cheaper, which puts it right in competition with the likes of the Quest 3. But the PSVR2 has one feature that I've been waiting so long for more headsets to adopt, a feature that only currently works for PS5, but would be amazing to bring to PC. Can you, guess what that might be? Eye tracking is a game changer for social VR. If you ever felt like VR avatars have this kind of glazed or unfocused expression, it's probably due to the eyes. In fact, some of you might be able to tell when I'm reading from a script in parts of this video. It's that powerful. As humans, we pick up on a lot of details from the face, and the way your eyes move is a big part of that. I found that in social VR, eye tracking is hugely beneficial to how we are perceived. That's not even to mention the other benefits like foveated encoding and UI improvements that can be done with eye tracking. But if you want eye tracking in PC VR, your options are pretty limited. A lot of people liked the Vive Pro Eye, but it was discontinued, and it's becoming quite outdated in terms of modern standards. Meanwhile, the Vive XR Elite, Varo Aero, and Quest Pro are all nearly $1,000, almost double the cost of the PSVR 2. Don't even get me started on the Apple Vision Pro. Pico 4 Pro comes close, but that's only available in Chinese markets. And while you can DIY eye tracking into many headsets, it's a difficult mod that carries some risk. When set up improperly, IR emitters can cause irreversible bodily harm. Put simply, damage your vision. While I understand that the DIY eye tracking community is very passionate and extremely talented, it's not a path that I can generally recommend. Having built-in eye tracking on a relatively less expensive headset could be game-changing, and the novelty of it might be a solid reason to get PSVR 2 on PC. But there is a catch. In a blog post, Sony has confirmed that the PC adapter will not support eye tracking. Not only that, it won't support HDR, headset feedback, and adaptive triggers. While it is extremely disappointing to hear this, I don't want to completely lose hope yet. A lot of these features probably aren't supported just because the software isn't standardized. There might not be enough universal support for Sony to guarantee this type of functionality. But if there's one thing our community is amazing at, it's making our own software to support edge cases and hardware compatibility. Just look at all the modules available in programs like VRC-FT. A lot of these rely on the manufacturer's drivers, but at least we know we can get to the next step. So as long as we can somehow pull eye tracking data out of this headset, it's not unreasonable to get it working with games like VRChat and Resonate. Therefore, I think it's worth it to make the eye tracking data accessible on PC, even if it's in a very basic form. We'll take it. Let's also not forget about the headset feedback. I wasn't sure what this feature was when I first read it, but it's literally haptic feedback on your head. So not only does this thing have eye tracking, but you can potentially feel it when someone gives you head pats. A feature that I know my audience will get a kick out of. People have bought $100 haptic pucks just to feel this. Again, so long as there's some way to interface with the hardware, I am confident the community can get things working, whether that be through modding games or in the case of VRChat, OSC. Now, lastly, we should talk about HDR support. It would be awesome to have HDR titles work, especially for dark games and immersion, but I get that software support is again going to be inconsistent. SteamVR does have an SDK for HDR, but it's a pretty uncommon feature. I think we'd need to see it embraced for more headsets before we see content that is made for HDR. Also, for something like adaptive triggers, unless a game specifically programs in the haptics, it's not going to matter. Like the headset haptics, it would be awesome to get working, but for now, it's more of a fine detail than a wow factor. Maybe someday for cross-platform titles. I know this video doesn't have much technical information because details are still unknown and progress is still ongoing, but there's already been progress getting PSVR 2 working on PC by the creator of iVRY. Now, I do want to be clear, there's a very real possibility that the PSVR PSVR2 adapter was simply designed with these features cut, and there will be no way to read the eye tracking data off the headset. Don't run out and get a PSVR2 until we know more about the adapter itself. But if that's truly the case, I'm disappointed at the lost chance to bring these features to the PC VR audience, especially since I believe there's real value in bringing them to social VR. Without the extra features, I don't really see a huge reason to get the PSVR2 over a more purpose-built PC VR headset. Now, the adapter has probably already been manufactured, so the hardware is unlikely to change. The best we can hope for is that the data we need is already there and just not officially supported, or a firmware update comes out at a later date that makes it possible. Hopefully we can see them brought to light by Sony and the community in the future.